Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I thank the ranking member, and of course, I thank the witness for appearing today. Mr. Secretary, in your annual report, you cite some concerns about cybersecurity. Ironically, on yesterday, the Subcommittee on Oversight and Investigations held a hearing on cybersecurity styled a global perspective on cyber threats. One of the things that we took away, or I did, from this hearing is that there appears to be clear and convincing evidence that cyber threats and attacks pose a clear and present danger to our financial system. And I'm pleased to see that you have addressed this and you need additional assistance pursuant to what I'm reading. You indicate that you would like for Congress to provide the financial regulators with the authority to oversee third-party vendors. And I believe I have some sense of why, but I think that the record should reflect your thoughts on why this is so important.
Congressman, this issue of cybersecurity is obviously a relatively new issue, but it has gone right to the top of the worry list and priority list that we have. And as I talk to CEOs, it's the top issue that many of them have. The challenges are many. It is hard to protect a system. It is hard to have individuals in the system operate in a way that makes it as safe as possible. I think the financial sector is actually at the lead, and we have a lot of work to do in the financial sector. There's many other areas where the exposure is even greater, and some of them overlap. I mentioned earlier the connection between utilities and financial. If your power and phones are not there, it's very hard to run a modern financial institution. I think that it is very much in the mind of both of the regulators and the industry, and the more tools we have to work together, the more tools there are for them to work collaboratively and to share information and best practices, the more likely we are to be successful. A threat that shows up in one place, if you know about it, you can then look for it as opposed to being blindsided by it. And we're making progress. There is much better sharing of information than there was, but I wouldn't suggest that we're ultimately where we need to go. And I think the passage of legislation to enable the greater sharing of information would be very helpful.
I want to concur with you. The witnesses who appeared yesterday all indicated, I believe, that you are at the top of the game, as it were, that you're doing better than most.
I don't take much comfort from that, though.
They didn't say that we have absolute security, and I understand this. My concerns have to do with the need for authority. What would you have us do immediately to give you this authority? I know that it's in broad terms here.
Yeah.
Are there some specifics that you can call to our attention?
Well, the cybersecurity legislation that's pending would take down some of the barriers for sharing of information and collaboration in the private sector. I think getting that in place would be quite helpful. We're doing things now on a voluntary basis where there's risks that firms have to balance, which would be very much eased if the legislation were to pass. We have executive orders that go as far as executive orders can. I'd be happy to follow up with you on more specific issues in the financial space that could be helpful.
Thank you. And finally, this. You have indicated that you believe that you should be allowed to coordinate a national plan, as it were, to deal with these responses to cyber threats. And you'd like to coordinate this with law enforcement, Homeland Security, as well as regulators. How far along are we with this concept of your having this opportunity to coordinate a national plan?
Well, we're obviously, within the federal government, we collaborate quite a lot. DHS plays the lead on cybersecurity, but I'll tell you, in the financial space, we have a regular meeting amongst the agencies that work most closely together. and we're looking at what we can do to be more prepared, and obviously that gives us the ability to reach out more effectively and develop a plan.
Thank you for your service, and I yield back.